Hey, Joe here. Welcome to the Real Estate Investing Mastery Podcast. Today, my guest, Hunter Thompson, get this, has raised over $100 million in private capital for real estate investing with zero experience starting out. Now, the crazy part, he did it using a strategy that no one has actually really even thought of before. And I've taken a lot of classes on how to raise private money and read books on it, and I've never heard the way Hunter does it here. That it's just going to blow you away. So while other real estate investors are fighting over coffee meetings and doing cold calls to raise money, Hunter realized the playbook for raising millions of dollars was hiding right there in plain sight in what we call digital marketing. Now, he became the first person to combine digital marketing, which I love marketing, with real estate capital raising. He found his blue ocean, and the results speak for themselves. So what's fascinating is that even today in this market, most real estate investors still haven't caught on, and they are still using the same old tired out methods. So if you want the blueprint to raise money for real estate in 2025, the easy way, you're in the right place. I can't wait for you to hear his story. So let's just jump right into it, okay? What's going on, guys? Joe McCall, the Real Estate Investing Mastery Podcast. Got a good guest with me today, Hunter Thompson, and we're going to be talking about how to raise your first or your next $1 million in capital for your real estate deals the easy way. How does that sound? What would $1 million in private capital do for you and your business? Helping you do more deals, help you fund your business, do the marketing. Actually, maybe even, I know what Hunter does this himself, almost like arbitrage, where you're like the bank, where you borrow money and you lend it out. You borrow it at a smaller interest, send it out and lend it out at a higher interest rate. We're going to be talking about how to do all of that because Hunter is the expert who's been doing this for a long, long time. He's written the book on how to raise capital for your real estate investing business. He's been doing it a while, and we met a few years ago at a mastermind. So Hunter, how are you, man?
I'm doing great. It's an honor to be back on.
Yeah, you've been on my show before. It's been probably 3 years. Glad you're here. Let's talk about real quick, what gives you the right to talk about raising capital?
Man, good question. Because, I've done some good stuff. There's some people that have raised a lot more money than me, but I think what gives me the right is a good way of putting it too. I was at a conference probably about 6 years ago, and I just could feel that the way to raise capital in today's world had been solved. Like, it was as clear as day to me. The playbook was there, and me and a couple other people had figured it out. And I was just feeling like, man, someone's going to write this book and I'm going to feel so silly if I don't do it. And at that very conference, the owner of the conference asked people to raise their hand if they had raised $1 million and to keep it up if they had raised 5 and 10, and eventually the number got to a point where it was only me and the person that hosted the conference. And I was like, okay, this is my sign. I got to write this book, because a lot of the speakers were talking about some of the topics that I was going to talk about. And so I took that as like a sign. I'm going to do this. And then for 6 months, I ended up writing the book, Raising Capital for Real Estate. But a lot has changed since then. And, since then I've raised around $100 million from hundreds of investors, bought hundreds of millions of dollars of deals. And this didn't come easy to me. And so the reason I can share my story, and hopefully it'll help people, is that I thought if you found a good deal, money would just show up. And I was in for a really rude wake-up call. Spent the next 15 years figuring out how to do it. Did it the hard way. Now I do it the easy way. And I'll talk about it today.
I've heard that same thing as well. Like, when you have the deal, the buyers will come, the money will come if it's a good deal. And there is some truth to that, but there's also some truth, would you say, that we need to dig our well before we're thirsty, right? Where we need to actually have those resources ready, because when we need them, it's a lot harder to get it when you need it. It's easier to get it when you don't need it. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think the people that say, hey, listen, if you have a good enough deal, the money shows up, that's true for them. But they forgot what it was like when they were just getting started and they didn't have anyone to talk to. And then kind of the next layer is, oh, it's not about the deal. It's that everyone has to know, like, and trust you. Again, true, but it's not the whole story, right? Like, people listen to this program right now, they probably have a couple of people that know, like, and trust them. But when they put deals in front of those people, they don't give them a nickel. And so it's like, they got to believe in their ability to make the decision. They've got to be economically in a position to invest. They got to have urgency and scarcity and excitement. And these are the things you got to do to kind of get people to move, 6 or 7 figures from their bank account to yours.
Yeah.
Relying on these little mottos isn't going to get you there. And so it's really the art and science of raising money. And the reason I'm back on your show is that this is a game that's always changing as market dynamics shift, as technology changes. And that's why I love this space so much. It's simple enough so that someone like a simpleton like me can follow along, but also it attracts billionaires and centimillionaires because it's so freaking lucrative. And that's the thing I love the most about it. It can change my financial life, my family's life, and investors' lives, and even the neighborhoods we invest in.
I want to ask you some questions, like, because someone's like, man, I don't need to raise $1 million. I just need to raise $100,000.
Yeah.
Or they're also thinking $100 million and they check out. Like, I'm not going to be doing $100 million big apartment deals and syndications and stuff like that. But I want to ask you some questions on, for the beginner who wants to just raise enough money for their first deal. But I do want to talk about your experience first, right? So to establish some credibility. You're raising tons and tons of money right now for big projects. You didn't start there though, right?
That's correct. And I did kind of have a unique path, but just for context, I am a multifamily operator in Phoenix. We only buy deals in Phoenix. Typical deal we may do, like the one we're about to close on, is a $13 million purchase. We required about $6 million of equity or capital to be raised. The next deal we're going to do is maybe about $20 million. It's going to require about $10 million. So these are pretty big projects. And I've done everything from fund fix and flips to even some non-real estate deals. But the way that you actually go about raising capital, it really can be broken down into three main segments. And I did them in the normal order of most people in their careers, but with one massive exception. So let me talk about the three ways to raise money, and I'll talk about why I kind of went a unique route. So the way that most people get into the way of raising capital is through what you described before, hard money loans. They have a property that they're going to fix and maybe flip. That's going to be a $100,000 purchase. Maybe they put an extra $20,000 into it and sell it for $150,000 or $160,000. The standard way to do this in our industry is to borrow, let's say, $100,000 for the purchase, put in $20,000 of your own money, and create a loan, an IOU, with the lender, a person that lends you money at like 8% or something, and use the property as collateral for that loan. And that's why it's called a hard money loan, because the loan is collateralized by a hard asset, this property that you're buying. And if you implement the business plan and add value, especially if you add value, the loan is protected because the value of the loan is less than the value of the property. Before I go any further, is that kind of aligned with your view? I know you've done a lot of those things in the past as well.
Yeah, okay. Of course. So hard money lender is a good way to get this. But I just wanted people to know, like, you're raising money for huge apartment buildings, right? So that's awesome, but most people aren't starting there. Now, some of you are. And if you are, then you need to get Hunter's book. We'll talk about that in a second. But like, if somebody wants to raise just $100,000 to maybe get some help to rehab their first deal or to buy their first vacant lot so that they can subdivide it and entitle it or all of that, there's a hard money is number one. Talk about what are some other sources?
So another element though would be like joint venture equity partners. So let's say you go and you buy this $100,000 property, and this person that you go to and you say, hey, listen, will you lend me money at 8% and I'm going to go and flip this property? You can usually raise some money at 8% by, texting friends and family, maybe talking to your natural existing network. But every now and then you might find someone that says, listen, man, I don't want to settle for the measly 8%. I don't really even need cash flow. What I'd rather do is I'll put up all the money, you do the work, and we'll split the profits 50-50. And that's kind of a more standard joint venture agreement where that person's putting up all the money and they're not really actively involved, but it's a simple legal document that just outlines both of you are an equal footing. You both have control. You both have a seat at the table. And I'll talk about why that's important in a second, but that's kind of like,
I love that. Because I have a good friend, Todd Toback in San Diego. Do you know Todd?
I do. Not well, but I know him.
He's a wholesaler, kind of. I mean, he's doing bigger deals now, but when he was wholesaling, he would find such great deals. He wouldn't just sell the deals. He would only sell the deals to somebody who wanted to partner with him on them. And I remember thinking when I heard that is so freaking smart, because he's got a deal. He could wholesale it and make a quick $20,000, or he could sell it to the rehabber. the guy's going to fix it and flip it and say, I want, instead of paying me 25 grand, I want 25% of the profits or whatever. So he would get maybe 50 grand or something bigger because he brought the deal. And I remember him telling me when he started telling his end buyers about this idea that he got a lot of kickback. Like, no, I don't want to do that. And then you say, all right, fine, I'll just bring the deal to somebody else. And he started doing a lot of deals that way by JVing with other people instead of just assigning the deal or being done with it, staying in it. Now he was taking on some risk, right? Because if that rehabber didn't make any money on the deal, but this was California, this market was booming, and he made a lot more money by doing that and not using any of his own money in the process.
Well, there you go. It's a good example. Like some people might say, hey, like, I don't need to listen to this podcast. Why do I need to raise money? It's like, fair enough. But let's keep in mind that like that gentleman you just mentioned, he's done a ton of deals, probably more than most people have done. So why would he do that? Because it's the concept of leverage. It's the same reason billionaires raise capital all the time, right? Sometimes they could technically take down massive deals by themselves from their own personal balance sheet, but they'll make more if they do higher leverage activities. And capital is one of the things you can leverage. So even if you are a billionaire, and I have some friends that, have families that are worth $100 million, even they run out of friends and family money eventually. At a certain point, everyone does, because our ambitions may be bigger than our capital, which is kind of the whole point here. So in that example, he was willing to not get the monthly cash flow, and in exchange for that, to make a bet on the deal, make a bet on how this person was going to perform, and got a much bigger piece of the upside. And I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned from that. So that's kind of the typical joint venture structure.
It reminds me too of this guy, a friend of mine who was my coach at one time. His name is Steve Cook. He would teach a strategy called debt-free investing, how to invest in real estate without using any debt and without using your own cash. Interesting concept, right? Head scratcher. Like, how does that work? But it's this idea of bringing on partners. So you find the deals, you bring them the deals and say, hey, listen, here's a good deal. I'll manage the rehab. I'll put a tenant in there. I'll manage the property management. Won't charge you anything. We'll split the equity and the cash flow 50-50. Okay, great. So I go find a deal that's worth 100. I buy it for 50, bring it to, there's $50,000 in equity in that deal. Before it's fixed up. After it's fixed up, maybe there's 25 grand of equity in the deal, right? And then a money guy comes in, puts the money to buy the house, to fix it up, right? And then you manage the rehab, manage the tenant, and all of that. And it's complete open book. And so this is fascinating if you think about this. To get 20 free and clear properties, okay, you do 20 of these with this investor. Guess what? After they're all stabilized, the rehab, they're stabilized, you've got tenants in there, you're getting cash flow, it's great. Then you go to the partner and say, listen, and you have already agreed to this in advance. Eventually this is going to happen. You take the 10 best properties and I'll take the 10 worst properties, right? So that now investor takes the 10 and he's got the 10 best properties and his cash flow is the same as it was before. But now you have 10 free and clear properties. Isn't that great? Just a simple little different twist on how to buy and sell, how to own real estate without using any of your own money.
And this is the name of the game. And if you do those scrappy strategies, you can create an incredible life for yourself, financially speaking, because of all the benefits of real estate, especially if you can control and AKA not sell it. There's so many things you can do, but you've got to be able to get in the habit of selling the deal, essentially. And we'll talk more tactics in a second, but I don't want people to think that all we're going to talk about is just the different structures, because you can just Google that. I think the element here though is that when the rubber really meets the road is, can you get people to send the money to the bank account, which is what, that's really the main thing holding a lot of people back in this industry, is that they're limited by their own balance sheet. And I don't want you to be struggling with that.
All right. So to raise your first 100 grand, we talked about two ways so far: hard money, joint venture, equity partners. Is there a third or fourth way to raise your first 100 grand?
Once you start doing joint ventures, you'll start to realize, wow, if I could unlock unlimited capital, I can do unlimited deals, right? And so what will end up happening is not only will you be able to do more deals, but you can do bigger deals if you want to as well. And so the challenge then becomes, if you were to do a deal where instead of doing $100,000 flip, it's a $5 million flip, you would need to include multiple different partners usually to do something like that. And this is where you get into this concept of securities, which is like, instead of when in a joint venture, you have an equal playing field and you're kind of got two seats at the table, as I mentioned before. When you start to have like 10 investors, 20 investors, 30 investors, there's a legal difference that takes place because at a certain point, you're deferring to someone else's expertise and you no longer have control and you're kind of sending them the money and you're passively investing versus a joint venture where you would like be able to have full transparency, maybe some decision-making control, and you would be responsible for looking at the insurance and just, it's an ever extra layer of scrutiny. When you defer to a third party, it's material because that's when you get into this world of securities. And that's when you get into this concept of crowd-funded real estate, or the common term is syndications, where instead of having one investor put up $5 million, I might have 100 investors put up $50K each. And now I can go and buy this $15 million property in Phoenix. And that's like the third structure, where that's the common structure where if you want to buy bigger and better deals, you usually have to implement some sort of syndicated or crowdfunding strategy.
And to do that, that's advanced. You have to get licensed with the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, right?
I wouldn't say license, because that's there are certain things that require a license, but if you're buying and owning and controlling real estate, there isn't a license that comes with that. It's just that you have to understand and work with an attorney that can guide you through securities and compliance law.
Right.
Right.
You have to register.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And the only reason I say that is that I actually formally had a license to sell securities, but it was because I was selling securities for other people's deals. And that's something that does in fact require a formal license, what people would say.
Okay. So to register security, if you're pooling money together for a big project, that sounds really complicated and confusing. Is it hard to set up? Is it easy to find attorneys that can help you with that?
So since 2012, the Jobs Act really changed this industry because for the first time ever, it was legal to talk about the specifics of syndicated deals on the internet. And so the industry especially exploded, and I was a big benefactor of that. I also played my little bitty role in that in some way. But essentially, you can go out and say, hey, you guys, I got a deal. Click here to learn more. And as long as you're an accredited investor, you can have access to this deal. And that was really the first time that was legal. And so now the industry is booming and very robust. And so people are familiar with, and if you're not, you can look it up, 506B or 506C, which is allowing you to raise money for a security without basically registering as a publicly traded company. So,
Okay.
Real estate companies may go public, but when we do a real estate raise, we don't make it a public offering like the same as Tesla has a public offering. It's just the compliance associated with that would be too much. Instead, the SEC has these exemptions. Hey, here's an exemption. If you follow these rules, you can basically apply for this exemption and you can raise money as a private kind of offering is what they're called, PPM.
Okay. So then a PPM is a private placement memorandum. Is that right?
Exactly. And that's basically a private offering where you can pull investors together and invest in deals as long as you follow certain stipulations. Like, for example, 506C, it is required that all the investors are accredited. 506B, different rules and regulations, but you can have up to 35 non-accredited investors. The caveat, though, is that you can't talk about the deal generally publicly. You can't go and say, hey, you guys, I got a deal, but you can do it behind closed doors once you kind of established a pre-existing relationship with those investors. And there's all kinds of nuances, but that's kind of the main ones. And yeah, attorneys for this, it can be 10 grand, 30 grand, and 50 grand, which is a lot. But when you're buying a $20 million deal, it's worth it to get things set up correctly.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about somebody who just wants to buy a $25,000 vacant lot.
Yep.
And they want to flip it for 50 grand. But they need to hold on to it for 1 or 2 or 3 months so they can list it and sell it on the MLS. So they just need one private investor to short-term them the money. Mm-hmm. And, they've done some deals. They have some track record. They don't want to use necessarily hard money and pay 18% on it. They'd rather get a private investor and pay them maybe 10 or 12% on the money. All right. So what are some steps that a beginner can take to find a private investor on the smaller deals?
Well, the first thing I do is look, I mean, there's certain things I kind of take for granted, but it's worth just starting from the basics. You got to be an expert in what you do, right? Everything I'm going to say from this point going forward is assumes you actually know what you're doing. Because if you don't, you shouldn't do any of the stuff I'm talking about. You shouldn't go raise money if you don't know what you're doing.
And
And
this is so good to make because I don't want people freaking out. Like, if you're not an expert, that's number two. I got it right here in my notes. Joint venture with people
yes,
until you become an expert and you learn how to do the deals. All right, go
and
ahead.
it's true for me. I'm sure it's true for you. Here's the question you should ask before you listen to the rest of this podcast. Would you invest in you on your first deal? If the answer is no, as it should be, don't do your first deal. In fact, I never did my first deal. I always partnered and partnered and partnered until no one ever asked me about my track record again, because I was always deferring to someone else's expertise. And eventually I'd been doing deals for 5, 6, 7 years and it never came up again. And now I can just say, hey, look, Google me. You can figure it out. I'm a very present person on the internet. And so that's the kind of what I suggest everyone do. And that's not to brag. Like, I'm sure it's the same with you. You can partner with people, especially if you have a good solid deal. Maybe the seller would be a good partner in the example you mentioned, to use them as your board of advisors, your gray hair. I've got a bald head, so maybe not for me, gray hair, but you get my point. And the point is, giving up a little bit of economics to be able to have a quick answer for, is this your first deal, is going to help you dramatically through the course of your career. So that would be one thing I'd say. But then once you are like an expert and you've got someone on your team that can answer questions, if you are doing your first deal or something like that, dude, I would just go and text people right now, like, action item from this podcast. Send out the following text and email same day. Just say, subject line, something interesting's coming up, ... Hey, I know it's been a while since we've connected. As you may know, I've been heads down in the real estate space for this last couple of months, years, whatever your answer is. And I don't have anything under contract right now, but would you be interested in staying in the loop once I do? That's it. No deal specifics. No, hey, give me 50 grand right now. Just see if you can get the easiest yes ever, because everyone loves to be kept in the loop. Now we're going to take people from there's no deal under contract to them saying yes, to immediately prompting them to do a 15-minute call with you, in which you kind of uncover their wants and needs and pain points. And depending on whether or not you actually have a deal, you can show them an example of a deal and ask and try to get a gauge of interest. And through this process, you can also ask about a range of investment if they were interested. And this is a very good way to use your emotional intelligence to see how hot, warm, cold they are, and potentially go for a soft commitment or a hard commitment. And maybe they can invest in your currently available deal. But the cool thing about this is it removes the stress of you selling them. Immediately you say, we got nothing. So, but let me just show you this example. And then they could go, hey, wait, can I get into this? And you can go, well, I can see it's kind of close. We might have 50K available. Would that be the kind of thing that you're interested in? What would be like the range you're looking for? 25 to 50K? Great. Let's go ahead and reserve you for the 50K. I will confirm with my partner if we still have it available, and I'll let you know via email, and we can move this thing along. That's it. You just took someone from totally uninterested, we haven't talked in months, to $50,000 investment. It's easier said than done, but it's exactly what I've done over and over again.
I like that because you're digging your well before you're thirsty.
Yes.
In a certain sense, you're building a list, and it sounds to me like you have a program already. And so you're not, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, right? Because I have found it's better to tell them, this is my program. I pay this. I'm looking for these kinds of deals.
Yes.
And it's got to fit this buy box. And, it's cool if you say no, but this is what I do. This is what I pay. This is the kind of deals that I do. These are my kind of like a one-page short business plan for that's this kind of deal specific. Because you can't just be like, well, I'll pay you. I don't know. What do you want to get paid for interest? You can't do that, right?
Yeah. I mean, mostly investors, when you have those initial calls with them, they're trying to figure out what your confidence level is, you're just, do you know what you're doing? Is this the first time you've had a conversation like this? And the truth of the matter is, even if it is your first time, it can appear like it's not by doing a couple things. I mean, I'll just say one of them right now, starting off the call with you setting the tone and agenda of the call and the end point of the call. Like, that's one thing that like experts do that beginners don't do. And it just,
it's so good.
everyone relaxes, right? Like if you get on a call and someone goes, hey, listen, if it's cool with you, I like to jump right in. I've got us blocked from 12 to 12:30, and I've got a call just like this one at 12:30. So let's jump right in. Like, you just know immediately my time is valuable. Other people want to invest with me, and this person's going to set the agenda of the call, which is let's go ahead and get started.
And
And
it's
so
totally cool. There's no pressure either. Listen, it's
totally.
totally cool if you say no, because you're letting them know, if you don't like this deal, I've got a bunch of other people lined up that would be. So I'm not trying to sell you or pressure you into anything.
Yeah. And one other thing I'll say about that, just from a confidence perspective, is look, as of the recording this, it's December 31st. We're in the middle of a raise. It's a really difficult time to raise money to raise money during the holidays is hard. And I just got an email from an investor that was supposed to invest $500,000. And I know it has nothing to do with the deal. It's just because he didn't want to make it a priority during the holidays that he bounced out. Now, that hurt. Like, it doesn't hurt me financially. Like, we're going to figure it out. But like, I wish he didn't do that. And I wish he would I wish I had waited 3 more days to send in the deal, because I know he would have invested if we started on January 6th or whatever. But the point is, I don't go, oh, please. I don't go, oh, no, seriously, give me a shot. I go, hey, listen, it's all good. We're probably going to do 2 or 3 more of these in 2025. We'd love to include you. By the way, here's a podcast I did about the Phoenix market. Take a listen and we'll connect next time we have one. And it's like, you never want to be needy, chasing, gross. Yeah. It's just try to play it just like the game, where you have got to be in a status of everyone wants to invest with you. Money flows to you. And by the way, it is true, right? In my business, and it should be in yours as well, that good deals get funded. But it's not because I've got this massive, I click a button and the money just comes in. It's that we refuse to quit, right? And that's what raising money is all about. Like, I've got systems and processes and automations, and I've got everything, and I have raised 9 figures, but every capital raise is a fight. And when you got to fight for it, that's when you know you're getting good deals, my friends. So right now, when everyone's napping and overeating, I'm out here scratching and crawling for this deal, and we're going to get it closed like we always do.
I love it. Okay, so let's talk to somebody who's already done some deals. They have already raised a few $100,000 in private money for individual deals. And by the way, I should clarify, when I say raising private money for individual deals, it's one deal, one investor, right?
Yes.
So you're not pooling money. You got one deal, one investor, and you're either partnering with them on the deal, or you're borrowing money from them on the deal. Now, somebody who's already been experienced, already done a couple dozen deals, they want to start doing bigger deals. Where do they start? I mean, kind of, it can seem like, this is another hurdle they have to learn or jump through or whatnot. Is it that big of a deal to go from raising $100,000 to raising $1 million?
Well, there's a yes and a no, because you can get by raising 6 figures without really doing much of the stuff I spent my career talking about. And like, I kind of gave you a lot of that playbook right now, right? Send a couple text messages out, book a couple calls, and you don't need to focus on like hyper scalable activity, because if you only want to raise 6 figures every now and then, you can kind of do that on your own, just using brute force and working harder than other people. And like, I feel like people on this show are like, okay, got that. But like, if you really want to take this thing to the next level and you want to raise 7 and particularly 8 figures in one deal, you've got to start implementing selling one to many. And this is something, I mean, I got to give you a shout out. You understood the concept of scalable sales early in the marketplace. And for those that don't know, scalable sales is marketing, selling one to many. And that is something that this industry has been so slow to adopt, that I'm still screaming on top of the rooftops that you should create content. You should do podcasts. You should do webinars. You should do economic newsletters. Whatever your investors are hungry for, you should be the one creating that for them, because it makes your sales process way easier when someone gets on a call with me and says, holy crap, is this actually the real Hunter?
Am I really talking to Hunter?
Exactly.
Okay, this is so cool, because I've interviewed a lot of people talking about raising private money, and you're the first one to talk about this, to talk about using marketing channels like podcasts, social media, webinars, teleseminars, right? Like using kind of the internet marketing stuff that gurus use
Yes.
for raising money on deals. That's fascinating.
Well, I appreciate the shout out, but the truth of the matter is, what's remarkable is that this industry is so good that you can get by without doing this stuff. But my goodness, wouldn't it be better if you use the same systems and processes and marketing strategies that people have to use in the gosh darn how to lose weight industry, which is incredibly competitive. There's no barriers to entry. There's no physical reality. There's no moat. You take those same principles and apply it to the best wealth creation industry in the world. And then you've got a totally different outcome. So from
Okay,
my
so
perspective,
give me an
yeah,
example of one of these funnels. Let's call them funnels, right? Because we've seen each other at Funnel Hacking Live before. By the way, are you going to the next one in
I can't
February?
make it because it's right before our conference, which hopefully we can talk about in a second. But we
All
have an
right.
event that's like a week before or a week
Cool.
after. Um, but here's the thing: I have been in sessions with 40 real estate entrepreneurs, all of which are doing deals and are competent business people. And I will ask them, I'll get on a thing and just basically ask them, what is your lead generation mechanism? And they will all slowly be like, wait, what? And I'm like, well, all of you are here because you want to like raise more money. So how are you generating leads? And like, it as if that concept hadn't occurred to them that they had to generate leads. Now, I get it because I was there myself, but you and I both know, what is your plan? Just word of mouth randomly. Hopefully you can get some referrals. I mean, that is not a plan in today's market economy where you have access to billions of people on the internet. So like for me, that would be a big part of it, is just solving that first. What is a lead generation tool? A good example, and please don't misunderstand me. I know people that are just getting started are doing that exact same thing, but I'm trying to help you right now because I was there where you were. So like everyone listen to this podcast, if you don't have a lead magnet, here's how to get one. Go to ChatGPT, whatever kind of investors you want to focus on. Let's say it's doctors, dentists, lawyers, high income earners, W-2 employees, whatever. Pick an angle and then type in 7 things doctors need to know about investing in real estate. ChatGPT will spit out 7 things. You'll probably see some, make some tweaks, and that's your 7-chapter ebook that you can write on Google Docs, hire someone on Fiverr, $5 to design for you graphically, host it on a website where people are required to put in their first name, last name, email address, phone number. And when they do, they get emailed that lead magnet. Going through this process for the first time is going to be a little bit of a hurdle, but now you have an answer to that question. How do I generate leads? You go to 7thingsdoctorsneedtoknow.com and now you've got your first lead. And that, my friends, will hopefully put you on a path to going from raising 6 figures randomly to 6, 7, 8 figures each time you put out a deal, which is exactly what I went through.
I am doing this right now. I don't know how to spell chiropractors. Make when investing in. Okay, so I did one. It was called "Give Me 7 Things That Chiropractors Need to Know About Investing in Real Estate." Real estate can provide passive income. You need to start small with a clear strategy. You need to leverage tax benefits, understand financing options. Time management is crucial. As busy professionals, chiropractors need to choose investments that align with their available time. Real estate provides long-term wealth building. Networking is a key to success. And then I asked, give me the 7 biggest mistakes chiropractors make when investing in real estate. Lack of clear investment strategy, underestimating the time commitment, failing to build the right team, over leveraging and misusing debt, ignoring due diligence, focusing only on appreciation, not understanding market trends. That's a book right there. And
Can
you
I
could
give you a
just
little
ask.
secret sauce? Can I give
Yeah.
you a little secret sauce? Because now we're getting into like this is like next level marketing. Just ask it to say, make it more uniquely apply to chiropractors. And now I'll read some of the responses that we'll say. And I'm putting you on the spot, but this is actually an important piece here.
ChatGPT is telling me you need to learn how to spell chiropractor. I'm just kidding. Okay, here's an updated version. Yeah, chiropractors often focus so much on their practice that they approach real estate without aligning it to their goals. Um, oh my gosh. For example, they may not consider how real estate income could supplement the cyclical nature of their patient schedules and help cover slow seasons.
Dude, I got chills. And I'm sure you can just go and on and on. And so, and I won't make you do this now, but another thing you can do after that is to say, make it even more emotional. And guys, what
Oh
I
my
just
gosh.
said, chiropractors, make it more applicable to just chiropractors and make it more emotional. That is like my whole playbook for like the foundation of every lead magnet we make, because it will be screaming to your dream clients. It so much uniquely applies to them that they have to listen to the podcast as they're driving, and then they hear you say the stuff, they pull over the car, and they actually take down your information and opt into your lead magnet.
Oh
And
my
that, my
gosh. Can I
friend,
read this?
let's go.
Oh my gosh. Chiropractic lack of a clear investment strategy is a big mistake, right? Chiropractors dedicate their lives to healing others, often pouring every ounce of energy into their practice. And then when they turn to real estate, it's easy to chase shiny opportunities without asking, how does this align with my dreams? Without a plan, they risk spending hard earned money and precious time on investments that don't move them closer to financial freedom or their family's security. Underestimating time commitment. Chiropractors are used to juggling patient care, marketing their practice, and staying top of certifications. Adding real estate can feel overwhelming. They may think I'll find time somehow, only discover that they're stretched so thin that both their practice and investments suffer, leaving them frustrated and questioning their ability to succeed. Oh my gosh. So imagine you want to raise money, private money from chiropractors, maybe lawyers, maybe doctors, dentists, right? Just do something like this. And so you're saying come up with a lead magnet, 7 mistakes dentists make when investing in real estate or whatever, right? And then um, you can, I'm not saying you should just have Chat GPT do all of it for you, but at least have it build the foundation for you, right?
Use it as
This is amazing.
inspiration. And then the cool example, like the one that you're giving right here, is like this would apply to like chiropractors that are thinking about investing in real estate actively. But in the example you gave, it would be an opportunity for them to get exposure to real estate, but rely on you to do all the dirty work. So for example, you can say to them, hey, you're probably thinking about getting into real estate, but you've probably done a couple deals, or maybe you haven't. But if you haven't, let me tell you, it's going to be a lot more work than you think, which is why my firm helps chiropractors just like you get passive cash flow without the tenants, toilets, and trash and time commitment. My name is Hunter Thompson. I'm with ASIM Capital. And that is like really compelling if you meet them at the right time in that journey.
Okay, so you create a lead magnet, and then what? What do you do after they hear about you on a podcast or YouTube video, social media? Then what?
So I really like to leverage back-end automations to make my sales process easier. And the reason I always say sales is that I get that some people are like, I don't want to be one of these marketer guys and all that stuff. I don't care what you want to be. You want more top line revenue, right? Like that's what this is. And so let's try to figure out a way to make it better and more scalable. And so I'll give you an example, and this will be very tactical, but you can use it as a metaphor. So if someone books a call with me, they fill out a form, they fill out a survey, they have a call with me in 48 hours. Rather than wait 48 hours to see if they show up, I'm going to use their responses on the survey to drip them information that's relevant to where they are in their journey, right? And even if I don't go to that level of detail, just take that as an example. Someone books a call with you, you got 48 hours before the call to warm them up, to give them relevant case studies, to give them track records of success, to knock down their limiting beliefs in the build up to that call. As an example.
Okay, so just
Yeah.
to rewind a little bit though, you're saying they opt in to get the lead magnet. You capture their name and email and phone number.
Yeah.
The next step is, hey, book a call. If the book is on the way, check your email inbox. It'll be there in 5 minutes. But since you've opted in, since you downloaded this book on how to make money in real estate as a dentist, and then you kind of give them a little pitch to maybe book a call with you right then and there.
Yeah, you totally can. So like what we call is the thank you page, right? So they opt in, and then the next page is a thank you page. Hey, thanks for opting in. You're going to get your things you need to know about real estate. Congratulations on getting that. It's going to be a big step in your financial journey. By the way, my name is Hunter Thompson. I work with dentists just like you. And the reason I do this is that I used to be a burnt out dentist, and thankfully I found real estate and it provided me all this great stuff. So, but it's not just me. I've also helped these 3 clients that are blah, 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 blah. And if your story sounds like that, or if this sounds like something you're interested in, there's a button below. You can book a 15-minute call with me. Boom. That's like your first funnel. Then, of course, if they book a call, then we drop them into this new automation that's like the build up to the call. If they don't book a call, we'll drop them into a different automation that's like book a call, book a call, book a call. And so then they've got this endless web where there's nowhere they can go that they're not being prompted to do the next rational thing. And so I was just giving the example of if they do book a call, like one of the things we deal with is that because we only invest in Phoenix, people are always worried that we're going to run out of water. Right, which I think is not true. And Fortune 500 companies are moving their headquarters there, and the largest international investment of all time is taking place there. We're not running out of water. However, new investors may not know that. And so I know that they might be thinking that. So when they book a call, one of the things they're going to see is an email from me addressing that concern. And that's just one example because there's many, but like, wouldn't it be nicer if that instead of every time you got on a call with an investor, rather than dealing with them being like, should I really invest with raw land because there's no cash flow? You did a 8-minute podcast of you answering that question for the zillionth time, just recorded it on a $300 microphone, an MC7 or whatever it's called, and then dripped that out to investors right before a call with you. I feel like that would make your sales process a lot easier. And it doesn't mean you got to be the next Grant Cardone. It's just, don't you want to have an easier sales process? And that's the way that I've been able to do it.
I love it. Okay. We're running out of time, Hunter. This is really good. I love the concept of, obviously starting small, partnering with people on deals to build up the experience. Then you can start raising a little bit of private money, one investor, one deal. But when you want to start getting into bigger and bigger deals, now that you have deals behind you and you have some experience on all that, create a marketing funnel to raise bigger amounts of capital after you get registered. But after you register your security. Yep. So, but you've got a conference coming up where you're going to be talking a lot more about this. What's going on with that?
So I'll put it this way, just because the nature I speak quickly, I'm excited. I'm a little bit of a nerd about this stuff. Like I am a real estate nerd at heart, but I've realized that marketing is like the rocket fuel in these businesses. And it's so cool to apply that rocket fuel to something that actually works, right? Because I mentioned the weight loss industry, which is like riddled with scammers and crash diets that give you results for 7 days and just don't work over the long term. And I'm passionate about real estate, and my life, since I was a little kid, I was just like, if I can find something I can sell that I really believe in, I'm going to be able to win at this game because I'm just a passionate kind of person. So I can be a little overwhelming, but because of that, we have a conference where if you feel like you need to be doing this stuff for your business, there's just no other place. And it's all we're going to talk about is raising money. So nothing about wholesaling, finding good deals, picking good markets, cap rates, nothing like that. Just how can we scalably get the money into these quality assets? And you can learn more about that at RaisFest.com. Going to have some awesome speakers. A lot of you probably know Pace Morby, Cody Sperber, myself, Catherine Bell. She's going to do this rock star thing about AI and using AIs to raise money. She's able to clone herself and answer questions from investors 24/7 without her being in there. And I've used it. It's totally insane. Endless stuff like that. So just check it out at RaisFest.com.
Raise, RAISE, Fest, FEST.com.
And that's going to be in Phoenix, February 19th through the 22nd. And it's really unlike anything. If you go and watch the trailer, you'll see it's not a typical private equity event, but we definitely give away the tactics.
I love it. Sweet. Any place else that somebody can go to get more information about you? We mentioned the book.
Yeah, just go to raisingcapital.com. That's my real business name. And so most of the stuff we do is hosted there, including a book that's $7 that contains pretty much everything I know. But like a good example of this is that last time we spoke, ChatGPT wasn't around. So that whole exercise we went through, like this game is always changing. And so that's why it's good. Like it doesn't need to be our conference, but you should be trying to stay ahead of the game on the capital raising stuff, because if you're 6 months behind the curve, you're just missing out on awesome opportunities. And I think 2025 there's a reason all those market analysts were saying survive until 25. Well, now it's about to be here, or is here. And we just can't let this one slip by us. Y'all wish y'all were doing more deals in 2010. This is all the makings of a great opportunity, and I want you to capitalize on it.
I love it. Okay, guys, go to two websites, raisefest.com and raisingcapital.com. Thank you, Hunter Thompson. Appreciate you being on the show and giving people some inspiration and some excitement about this market. Appreciate you, man.
Thanks again, Joe. Honor to be on
All right,
again. Thanks again.
We'll see you guys later. Take care, everybody.